So Top Floor Women, we meet every month, the first Wednesday, same time, 8 to 9:30. There is no membership fee, there is no commitment. Come and show up, bring your business cards and have some fun and bring some friends. This is a place that we have decided to land as far as the location because Katie has lots of space and she has welcomed us. And so we want to thank her. Thank you, Katie, for Stage 1. So every month we have the opportunity for a coffee sponsor, and I want to recognize PNC because Melody provided our little gifts today. That's awesome. Yes, thank you. Thank you for all your gifts. Thank you very much. A couple of other things. On your table, there's a QR code that goes to our Top Floor Women YouTube page. So if you have not checked out the speakers from the last couple of years, click on that YouTube channel and subscribe, or just put it in your favorites, because we record from Joe Ake Studios back here in the back. He has professionally recorded our speakers, and then we want to share that content with you. Again, it's for you to learn and share and grow. So the last couple of years, go through there and just check out what you want to learn about, right? So that's another education piece. The other piece that you have on your table, so if those of you that went to Live to Lead in January, that is a John Maxwell sponsored event for this content that's the best in the world. And I did an event in January at the Garment Factory. We are bringing that here to Stage 1, November 2nd and 3rd. So I have 3 opportunities to do live events. One of those is going to be here at Stage 1. So just wanted to give you kind of some information now to start planning. November 2nd and 3rd will be a Sunday and a Monday, and we're going to do it more of a family night on Sunday, so we're going to have opportunities for kids, youth leadership learning, and then on Monday for business leaders. So November 2nd and 3rd, I just wanted you to see who the speakers were. Jesse Cole, that is the owner and founder and creator of Savannah Bananas. He's one of the speakers that will be highlighted. So we're going to theme a lot of the things that we're going to do this year for this event around fun, energizing business leaders that want to do something completely different that they've never thought about. His story is everything they did should not have worked, but it did. So that's where we're taking our mindsets this year, and we really want to encourage you to, infuse your business with strategies that are going to help you look differently. Okay, what else? Everyday Leaders is my company. I love helping infuse leadership development into your organizations through games, training, and assessments. And Katie, thank you again for Stage 1. Joe, thanks again for recording. One last announcement before we get to our speaker is Dawn Tellenhausen, right here, is our Avon lady, but also is starting a group called WESOS, Women Entrepreneur. Okay, I'm going to get this wrong. Secrets of Success. Her first meeting we're kind of doing a launch meeting next Thursday, May 15th at 11:30. So I'll send this out on email to remind you, but you're welcome to join us and find out about what's going on. So it's going to be 11:30 to 1:30, right? At McAllister's over on Emerson. All right. Great. Okay, so big fun we're going to have in June. Amanda Sparks is coming back. Not talking about allies this time, but she's going to bring her Toastmasters group in. Woo, isn't that fun? So she's told me, she's given me a little insight. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you are really curious about how to improve your speaking, you definitely want to be here and bring a friend. We can fill this room up, right? So, all right, without further ado, come on up here, Valerie. We're going to let you take it away for the next little bit here for elevating your employer game, touch and tech. And we got the young guns on stage.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I will definitely be at the Toastmasters thing next month, so my public speaking isn't up to par. No, I'll be working on it a month from now. But I'm here to talk to you guys today about touch and tech, like Melanie said. Obviously, we're in the world of AI and technology rapidly growing and changing the world around us. But you're going to have to use traditional hiring methods and kind of marry those two to be a standout employer in a really tough job market. So that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. So to start off, this is me, AI generated, of course. I'm the business development manager with Spherion Staffing. So you all I think you all have pamphlets on your tables that tells a little bit about what we do. But we do staffing, recruiting services for all kinds of industries. I've been with the company about 1.5 years now. I'm local to Johnson County, and before that, I was in public accounting. Before that, I was with Spherion for the first time doing recruiting for about 2 years. So about 3.5 years-ish with the company doing this role. So I've had a lot of time to really see what is going on in the world post-COVID. Obviously, it's been a little crazy. I'm sure all of you have seen the effects of the employment landscape and the job market. So, and then a little bit more about Spherion. We're locally owned, but we're a national brand. So we have the resources to get a lot of good data from across the country as far as the employment marketplace. This is a little bit of the expectation versus reality. So a lot of people think recruiting firms are just robots, but I'm not a robot. There's a couple ladies in here with me today. They're not robots, so we're all still human beings sitting behind our computer trying to figure out stuff the same way everyone else is. But ideally, we're all moving towards a future where we kind of marry these two and we get the best of both worlds. So, talking first about knowing the field and just what is going on out in the marketplace right now. So, major workforce trends, the big one, elephant in the room, is AI and just the digitization of all of our jobs and how they're all changing, along with the forever labor shortage. So the rest of my life, there's going to be a labor shortage. Even though we're hearing that robots are going to take our jobs, there is going to be a labor shortage for the rest of our lives. So just there's an increasing need for all companies to be a standout among a lot of companies that are looking for good people. And then there's also a rising demand for culture alignment. So you're seeing a lot more people coming into the workforce where culture is more important to them, and they might be willing to stay at a job where they might make a little less money if they feel like the culture is a good fit. So talking about Indiana unemployment right now. So the USA most recently is at a 4.2% unemployment rate, where Indiana is 4.1, Indianapolis is at a 3.1%, and then Johnson County is at a 2.8% as of March. So relative to the rest of the country, it's pretty low. So here we already have that challenge of you're picking from a small pool of really great people, and out of that small pool, how many of you have niche roles that 2.8%, there might not be a lot of candidates that fit that. So you really have to stand out amongst your competitors, because they're trying to pick out of the same basket you are, and sometimes they're trying to pick out of your basket of your employees too. And then Indiana right now is ranking among top states for businesses. So they were number 5 in 2024. So again, your competitors are strong and fierce and looking for the same people. And then as of December 2024, Indiana had 0.9 unemployed people per job opening. So further speaking to the fact that there are less workers than there are open roles right now. As I kind of alluded to in that last slide, there are a lot of big companies right now that are doing a ton of hiring. I know there's a lot of small businesses in this room, so this is going to affect all of you. Same with the increase in gig options, so DoorDash, Uber Eats, Instacart, all those things that are taking away your employees and giving them maybe more of a work-life balance or something else that maybe you're not offering. All that to say, headlines may show that the competition's grass might appear greener, so whether it's giant sign-on bonuses, we're asked all the time if that works. My vote is it isn't the end-all be-all. 401k programs, competitive wages, everyone's offering a competitive wage, so what does that really mean? At the end of the day, their grass might not be greener. Maybe there's burnout, high turnover, fast-paced work environment. So as small business owners and people in the business world, it's kind of up to us to spot where those gaps are at our competitors and see where we can fill them and be better than our neighbor next door. So going back to just some of the employment realities, your low unemployment just means it's going to be harder to find the rock stars for your business. Everyone's looking for that diamond in the rough right now, and there's 7.7 million open jobs. So that's 7.7 million roles where people are looking for a great person. In general, what employees are wanting from employers today, financial and emotional well-being is a big one. So kind of that yin and yang of good pay, but also a balance of life. Greater flexibility and additional time off, which you'll hear a lot about today. Remote and hybrid work arrangements And a year ago, 40% of employees answered that they wanted some kind of remote or hybrid work arrangement. I would bet that that number's probably gone up. Skill building and career mobility, 74% of employees expected this in their role. So they expect to be able to move up and grow with their company if they're going to stay. Transparency, 98% of employees expect this. So whether that's pay transparency, what's happening in the company, what's going well, what's not going well. Another kind of thing that's happening in the market right now, a lot of states are rolling out pay transparency laws. So it hasn't made its way to Indiana yet, but a lot of states are moving towards you have to list certain pay ranges, benefits, all those kinds of things in your job posting. So again, hasn't made its way to Indy yet, but something for all of you to keep an eye out for to make sure you're compliant in the future if it does make its way here. But in general, people are looking for a great employee experience. So your goal should be to become an employer of choice. You shouldn't have to beg people to come work for you if you're doing some things that make you a standout. So moving on to the exciting stuff, the AI, and how we can use that in recruiting. There's 4 big bullet points here. You could go ask ChatGPT right now on your phones, and it would give you 50 different ways that you could use it in your recruiting process. So I'm just going to talk about some real examples that we've seen. And so the first one would be resume screening and candidate matching. This is something we do at our agency, and it's not something that we rely on only. We have our wonderful ladies in here that will attest to that. They still do their job very well, but maybe you get 100 applicants and you're looking for an accounting job and 30 of the applicants have only ever DoorDashed before. We hear about that stuff all the time with Indeed and some of these job boards. So AI can help you kind of pare down those roles, maybe match to a certain distance range from your company, or you can tell it your priorities as a business and it can give you the top resumes from your application pool. So just basically taking some work off your plate in that recruiting process so you have time to do more thorough interviews, to spend more time upskilling your own employees, things like that. You can also do interview scheduling tools and chatbots for the initial part of the process. We'll talk about the chatbots part again, but again, just something you can do to take some time off your plate. So there's a 24/7 process. When you're off the clock, candidates can still be contacted. We're in that era where everyone's got TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and that instant gratification. And we're seeing in jobs, if you're not quick to respond or quick to get them through that process, they're going to move on and ghost you most likely and move on to the next person that is going to respond to them. So wherever you can utilize tools to have that constant connection, even when you're not working, so you don't have to work all the time, that can help you. And then video interview analysis and note-taking. I'm sure most people in here probably have seen note-taking AI in a Zoom call or something similar. So that's something where an AI bot can join your Zoom call. It can take notes, send you the transcript at the end of the call. But something that's been really interesting to me is the video interview analysis. So you can do a Zoom interview with someone, but as a human, we can only notice so many facial features, body language, tone of voice, all that kind of stuff. There's AI softwares that you can do on these interviews. You take your own notes, but at the end it'll send you feedback of, hey, this person might have been deceitful on this answer. This person might have been really excited when you said this, and it might be things that you didn't realize in your interview, and it can give you that feedback following those interactions. And then talent pipelining. So this is one I think would be really useful, especially if you're doing a lot of hiring, but even if you're not, suggesting past candidates based on newly open roles. So if you interviewed someone a year ago, I agree, especially with the matching the job descriptions with the resumes. You definitely can see, we've talked to so many employers recently that, they're like, we're not just going by resumes anymore because ChatGPT can make them. So definitely one of the ways in which you really need to have both elements in your hiring and not just relying on AI. And we use it to an extent with our company, but we always say we're using it as an assistant to make our job easier and not, an end all be all for that same reason, because there are people that are going to use it unethically at times. So then the last one I was going to talk about is just talent pipelining. So if you interview someone, 6 months ago and they were a great person, they could be a great fit for your organization, but nothing that you currently have available, keep them in that pipeline. And then if you have something open up, your AI can remind you, hey, instead of going to look for someone fresh off the street, maybe reach out to this person you interviewed that you loved that, you couldn't give, a home to at that time. So then we'll talk about the downside. So the biggest thing is the impersonal candidate experience. So people want to feel heard and understood, and a lot of times with AI, you're going to have that incomplete understanding, at least where it stands now. I mean, I'm sure probably most of us in here have been sent to customer service chatbots online, and you feel like you're talking to a toaster, and they don't understand anything you're saying at all. So sometimes, you can't really rely on that. You can use it for those initial, easy, low-hanging fruit items, but you can't really expect it to do the work for you. And then there's bias in AI, just like, a human might have bias, and like you said, you might have your own human emotions. When you're talking to someone, AI, someone made it somewhere down the line, so there are going to be biases that might be different than yours, but just things you want to look out for and make sure you have both ends of the coin when you're looking at candidates and using it in the recruiting process. There's also a lack of trust in the process kind of at this point. A lot of people might hear that companies use AI to screen resumes and say, okay, well, what if we miss that diamond in the rough? So again, that's where you still have to have that human element. You still, need to have conversations with people, get to know who they are and what they bring to the table, as opposed to letting a resume define them. And then lots of ethical dilemmas. I only listed 2. That was a great one too. I didn't know people were staring at AI during an interview. It's crazy the way technology is changing. But who's responsible for a bad AI call if we were to just rely on AI for a hire and that person steals from us or isn't a good fit? Who do we blame for that if we're putting our trust in a computer? And the kind of obvious one I feel like everyone talks about is, should a robot be controlling innate human interactions? And the answer to that, I would say, is no. Again, kind of culture can't be coded. You want to use it as your assistant, but you don't want to just let it do everything for you. And then another big one I want to talk about is fishing in the wrong pond. So this really pertains to skilled trades. I know we have a lot of admin type of companies here, but every company, most companies need, someone with a skilled trade. You're gonna need a maintenance tech at some point to fix your air conditioner. And these are the types of roles that might not be on LinkedIn, that might not be on these AI recruiting websites. So this is where it's really important that you don't just use that for your only recruiting methods. You need to be getting out networking still knowing how to interact with people outside of having ChatGPT write your emails. Because, the skilled trades, some of those people just aren't on LinkedIn. They're not making resumes, So you want to make sure you're fishing in the right pond for what you're looking for. So then we'll kind of move into more traditional hiring methods and things you can do to boost your brand. And I would just encourage you as we go through to think about ways that you can use AI in some of these processes to still have the effect and do more for your business, but not put a ton of work onto your own plate, and see where you can kind of have the best of both worlds. So one of the biggest things is selling your brand value, promoting and living your mission, your vision, your values every day. Employees want to know the why behind what they're doing and feel like they're making a difference, even if it's as small as, we go out and do community service as a team, or if it's something as big as, Bombas, the sock company, they donate a pair of socks to someone that's homeless for every one sold. So whatever scale it's on, people want to know that they're doing work that matters. Yeah, absolutely. So making sure there is that mix, and if you're using AI in your process, it doesn't mean you have to be fully remote. But like you said, making sure there is that human connection, making sure they feel like they matter and your brand matters too. People want to be proud of who they work for and not feel like, they're not living out their brand reputation. So other things you can do, request the Google ratings. A lot of employees are going to the Glassdoors, the Indeeds, and Googles to see what are employees saying about the company before they go work there. What are past employees, current employees, what have you. So that brand reputation is really important when you're bringing in people. And then constantly communicate your positive ratings and what's going well for your company as well. I know when we see positive ratings come through, it makes our day, perfect. But yeah, just to that point, I would say there should definitely be that balance, because we're not going to perfect our human-to-human skills ever. We're not always going to get it right, and neither is the computer. So use it as a tool where you can, but that doesn't mean you have to, give it all of the judgment. So then moving forward to reassessing your hiring process. So just look for ways that you can change the hiring process. Like I said, we're in that quick, immediate gratification world where people want to, start that new job right away, or at least be feeling like they're going through the process. I think a recent study said the average days to hire was 44 days, which is pretty crazy. That was about a year ago, so it might have changed, but a lot of companies do drag their feet. And I recently had a friend start a pretty entry-level job and had 8 interviews before she started. And that was very recent, maybe a month ago. So wherever you can taper down that initial recruiting and onboarding process is going to help you keep those great candidates once you get them in the door. And then also consider one big thing we've been seeing lately is relaxing the 4-year bachelor degree requirement. So if you're not in a niche role, of course, lawyers, doctors, accountants, they're going to need those degrees. It's very specialized. But if you're not in a super specialized role, consider if a 4-year degree is necessary. What transferable skills does someone have from participating in sports, participating in clubs, their other jobs, their involvement in the community, things like that. Because you might have a really great person that brings a ton to the table that didn't go to college, and a lot of people my age are starting to consider not going to college for that reason, because they don't feel the value is there for them. So consider that some of those people might be amazing workers and great teammates, but just might not have that degree. So that's a big one we've seen lately. And then, like I said, where you can make that process quicker, so look at shorter applications, self-scheduling the interviews. That's a big one that AI can do for you instead of, emailing, here's 4 days and times that work for me, and then the candidate says, oh, any of those work for me, and you email back. Doing the back and forth, that's more work on your plate, and AI can do that for you very quickly. Remote interviews, again, up to you if you want to put the trust in that, or if you want to do one remote, one in person, and then call it a day. And then just eliminating your pre-start checks, or at least reducing them. So not having a super extensive long, you need to do your background checks, right? You need to do some of these things that are important to have done, whatever it is you do at your company, but trying to taper that down if something isn't entirely necessary. Oh, sorry, should I get rid of the clicker? Let's see. Yes, we're good. Perfect. And then think about your rehiring policy. So make sure your employees know they're welcome to come back. I'm an example of this. Like I said, I did staffing for a few years, went and did public accounting, and then they brought me right back onto the team. So I'm an immediate testament to that, but making sure that the people that leave your company, if they leave on good terms, they are going to be people that bring immediate impact to the team. You don't have to spend the same amount of time training them as you do a brand new person that doesn't understand your business, the way things work at your company. Making sure that you realize the benefits of that, and if someone leaves, if it's for a good reason, keep that door open, because that might be your best way to bring in someone that's quality and understands you and your team the best in the future. And then ensuring your pay is competitive. So while the work-life balance and culture is getting close, is a close second, pay is still number one. So making sure you're keeping an eye out on what the market is at. I know it's changing constantly, and everything's getting more expensive, and people want to make sure they feel like they can afford to live. So make sure you're on top of that and knowing what the market looks like. And then going along with that, upping the incentive game. So I know I talked earlier about the sign-on bonus and how it's not really an end-all be-all. Think further down the line. If there's a referral bonus, there's a production bonus, things down the line that do benefit your company that, they say that a new hire, brand new, not a rehire, of course, can cost 5 up to 27 times more than just upskilling your own employee that's already at your company. So making sure those people that stay long-term are rewarded for that, because it's going to save your company money in the long run. Make sure you advertise opportunities for that upward mobility within the company before you just start looking elsewhere. Providing incentives, again, based on performance, individual or team. And then, let's see, making sure there's engagement and morale, and just ask what people want. You might provide a really cool incentive pay, and it might not align with what the bulk of your team would find, incentivizing. So making sure you have that open dialogue with your team is going to be really important. And then rethinking your benefits. Can you scroll it down just a little bit? There we go. I won't go through all of these, but just rethinking, again, talk to your team, see what they're interested in. I think, again, a year ago, 37% of companies said that they are considering or have moved to a 4-day work week. That's been a big one the last, really post-COVID. But all kinds of different things you can do, build your own schedules, floating holidays, things like that. Different ways to incentivize people to want to work for you and have a schedule that works for them. And then we'll talk a little bit about keeping the great people that you have on your team. So again, kind of considering why this is important. It's so expensive to hire a new employee off the street. Plus, if someone leaves and you haven't automatically refilled that person, the money that you're losing in between with the downside in production. Another recent study, we got lots of studies today, people. 30% of people leave their job in the first 90 days. So retention is so important because when a company is a revolving door with people, again, it's costing time, it's costing money, it's costing effort, it's costing, the whole team to have to pick up that slack. Then you might lose someone else in your team for picking up all the work that someone else isn't doing. So it's really important to make sure that the people at your company come first and are cared for, because 86% believe work can be more than just a paycheck. So examining your retention efforts. So making sure people, again, we talked about the why, making sure that people know their work matters. Like in the world, but also show them how their work matters to the employee, or the business as a whole. Making sure that they do know they do matter and they do make a big impact. Supporting that hybrid work schedule if that's something that is feasible for your company. I know a lot of times we have certain incentives where if you hit a certain production, you can have a work from home day. So it doesn't have to be that they're working from home all the time, every single week, if that's not something that works for your business. And then conducting stay surveys. A lot of companies historically do the exit surveys. We're seeing more and more do the stay surveys. It's something we do at one of our clients right now. Just touching base with employees regularly to see what is going well for them, what's not. Making sure that they feel good and feel cared for, because again, it's going to be more expensive if they leave. So you can oftentimes stop, the fire before it gets too hot. And then, let's see here. I feel like I missed a slide, but I'm just going to keep going and hope it finds its way back to me. Okay, promoting employee engagement. So making sure we are building an atmosphere based on respect, trust, transparency, inclusivity, making sure, again, people feel seen, heard, and understood. If you are doing these stay surveys and you're asking people for their feedback on your company, make sure you're showing that not that you're just doing the surveys, but you're trying to implement things to make it better. If you're, constantly doing these surveys and nothing at all changes, employees aren't stupid, right? They're going to pick up on that and see that it's just a facade. So making sure that you're making an effort. It doesn't have to be giving everyone $1,000 bonuses every week, but it can be little things that make the culture better. Having team building opportunities, making sure, like she said, the water cooler talks, make sure people have that time to connect, socialize, and get to know each other better. And making life-work balance a reality. So your employees shouldn't have to fight for this. I know for me, I have 2 dogs. You saw them on my little AI doll. If one of them, God forbid, has an accident, I want to know that I can rush my dog to the vet if I need to and not get fired from my job, right? People just want that basic human decency. There's no perfect work-life balance, but again, employees want to know that employers understand life happens and it doesn't need to mean your job on the line because of that. So encourage breaks, also getting away from your work areas for lunch. Go take a team walk, get out in the sun, get some vitamin D. Don't just sit for 8 hours a day, and not communicate, not have that time. And then again, having that flexibility is so important. Again, a lot of this is we kind of talked about previously, but exploring that scheduling flexibilities. We'll also have companies have that flexible schedule. So if it doesn't need to start right at 8 and end at 5, if their kid goes to daycare at 7 and needs to be picked up at 4, they're still getting the work done, they're still getting their hours in. Being more flexible with things like that. Making sure we're providing training in line with shifts that workers work. And again, allowing that productive anywhere model where you can. I really think I did miss a slide, so I'm going to go backwards if I can. Maybe. Yes, we did. Okay. Hold on, maybe not. Yeah, we did. So I'm going to scroll up and talk a little bit more about AI in keeping your people. If I can scroll up a little bit. Sorry. The other direction. This one right here is what I was going to talk about. Sorry, I don't know why. I thought this was later in the slideshow. But incorporating AI into the retention, so a lot of the strategies we were talking and things you can do to keeping people here. The predictive attrition models are a big one. So you can use performance in production to see who's not performing well. And AI can tell you, based on these metrics, here's who's at most risk of leaving. So you can intervene and talk to them. Again, do a stay survey and see what's not going well for them and what is, and how you can make their employee experience a little bit better, and make sure they seem heard before they leave, and then you have to backfill those roles. And then you can also do the automated stay interview scheduling. So again, if someone starts, make sure every quarter you're checking in with them, or every couple weeks for their first month, whatever it is. And then individualized onboarding, upskilling, and coaching. So the onboarding is a big one. Like I said, I'm a rehire, so I might not need the same amount of training as someone that is brand new, fresh off the street. So onboarding shouldn't be one size fits all, and if they feel like it is, they might not feel, like the employer's looking out for their best interest. If I were to do a 10-week onboarding after I'd already worked at Spherion for 2 years, I'd probably be bored to tears and not really motivated to start to get into the work. So AI is something that you can use as a tool to do that. Input the new hire you have on, what their skills are that they're bringing to the table, what their previous experiences are that they're bringing to the table, and put in your current onboarding plan and say, how can I change this to make this better for the new hire? That's something that you don't have to put a lot of man hours into doing the changing, but the AI can give you those ideas and kind of give you a layout that you can bounce ideas off of. And then upskilling and coaching, kind of the same thing as those predictive attrition models. So it can tell you who might need coaching, who might need skill training and AI can kind of give you that feedback as well. Now I'll go all the way back down to where we were. Let's see, where are we? Okay, PTO policy. So again, I'm not going to go through every single point on here, but just another thing you can consider doing to keep your team engaged. If you have unlimited PTO, again, I use the air quotes because then a lot of companies have that unlimited PTO. They ask to take a Friday off for their brother's wedding and they get a frowny face and a passive-aggressive comment from their manager. So if you have those policies, make sure that you're actually sticking to it, making sure people take their time off. Again, if people don't feel like they can take their time off, they're going to leave and find somewhere that they feel like they can. Adding floating holidays is another thing companies are doing. So adding 1 or 2 a year that someone can take off on a day that's meaningful, if it's their birthday, if it's Veterans Day, whatever it ends up being. And then also providing paid time off for giving back to the community. So a lot of companies are going to VTO so that the team can get out of the office and go volunteer, give back to their community in some way, because that's important to a lot of people. Okay, and then closing your skills gap is kind of the last big section. So talking about upskilling, some of these stats are pretty recent, but I think they're way underdoing it. So 50% of workers will need to retrain this decade. I think that's way undershot. I think technology has changed every way in which we live. 25% of jobs over the next 5 years, AI will change. Again, I would say that's pushing 100%. I think AI has changed already very quickly many of the jobs of us in here. And I don't think there's a lot of ways that AI and that new technology isn't going to change the world in the next couple of years. So it's really important to continue to train your employees because, again, if they feel like they're falling behind, they're going to go somewhere where they feel like they're being taught and led forward. So making sure you have a succession plan and implementing that. Like we said many times, we're going to have this scarcity of talent. So as you're seeing people in your company looking to retire, looking to make career moves that you know that they're looking to make outside of the company, make sure you have a plan in place based on the people you have on your team now and communicate that with those people. So if you hire someone on, knowing what their goals are within your company, making sure they know where they can move up and move into, and starting to train them proactively so that they feel like they can move up through the company. Again, because if you lose that mid to high level manager and you don't have someone in place ready to take that role, it's going to cost you a lot of money and a lot of effort from everyone else in the team to kind of fill that gap. And anticipating the changes automation will make to your role. So I would say, while there is going to be talent scarcity, try to find the places that AI and the new tech can close that gap a little bit. If you can't find someone right away, what can you add into your process with technology to close the gap a little bit and make sure that everyone's not, overwhelmed, overworked, and, super stressed out all the time. So making sure that you're anticipating those changes where you can. Again, we're not going to be perfect all the time, but wherever you can look out for that and plan proactively instead of reactively is going to be good for you. And then, again, introducing more training and development opportunities. There's tuition assistance. Mentor programs are really big now in companies, and employer-paid learning opportunities. And actively reward participation in that. If you have superstar employees that want to do that kind of stuff, make sure they know that that's valuable to you as their employer. And then, so overall, there's many, many things. Again, we could go on for days about different ways your company could bolster your hiring strategies and make your company better. But if you can pick one or two of these things, it's going to move you towards a future where, it is super competitive out there. I'm seeing it firsthand all the time. Everyone's hurting for that good person for their company. So any little changes you can make is going to make you a standout in the crowd. Maybe. Okay. Overall takeaway, text your assistant. Human connection is your advantage. So AI can help you hire faster, smarter, take more off your plate so you can do more for your job. But it can't replace that culture, empathy, and trust. The companies that are going to win throughout, this is a hard time. Everyone's learning this new technology. It's very difficult for a lot of companies. So leveraging tools without you losing that human touch is going to be super important. And then on that salary trend, we do have salary guides. I don't know if you can scroll down a little bit. If you want to take a QR code, if you are curious where you're sitting with the market, these are free. Just scan the QR code or email me. My email's on all the papers on the table. I'm happy to send you that. Or if you have other market questions, probably somewhere in my database, I have it, and I'm happy to be a resource for you all. And that is it. Let's get to work. Thank you, guys.